He said, Mike, can you delete any emails you may have had with Keith, REAR4? Keith will do likewise. He's not in at the moment. Minor family crisis. Can you also get email to Gene? Get him to do the same. I don't have his new email address. We'll be getting Casper to do the likewise. Count them. There's Jones, Mike, Keith, Gene, and Casper. Whoever they are.
Okay, most of the things Glenn Beck said in each of those clips is true. Global warming is a manufactured crisis, and yes, the UN and corrupt politicians like Al Gore are trying to use this fraud to rip us off through the Ponzi scheme known as cap and trade, where big corporations will be allowed to emit as much of the so-called toxic CO2 as they want, as long as they're willing to pay carbon indulgences to carbon trading companies owned by the same offshore banks that have caused the financial crisis we're in, and other crises in the past, to bankrupt and enslave the people in exchange for carbon credits fraudulently created out of thin air, just like our own currency and all the currencies of the world. The cost of these carbon credits would then be passed on to consumers and make basic goods and necessities like food and clothing so expensive that the average person would not be able to afford any more than a loincloth, a handful of beans, and if they're lucky, a cardboard box under the nearest overpass. I mean, why do you think Mexico is so poor? They have just as much, if not more, resources than the U.S., but their illegitimate criminal government stifles any possible free market competition by creating a corporatist plutocracy where they and their criminal friends are able to line their pockets and rip off the people. And Glenn Beck, as part of the establishment's controlled opposition, knew all this, and for a while global warming was the only thing that he was telling the truth on. But then he goes and flip-flops on that by saying that, you'd be an idiot not to notice the temperature change. I mean, I'll bet you anything Glenn Beck was probably snickering when he said that, because he just revealed what he really thinks of his audience. I mean, how Glenn Beck has been able to keep all of his compulsive lies straight for so long is a mystery to me, but folks, the good news is he can only do it for so long before people finally realize he's a fraud. Now, I'm going to see if I have any calls now. If you wish to call into the show, my number is 646-378-1514. Once again, the number to call into the show is 646-378-1514. Now, do I have any calls? No calls yet, so I'm going to move on. The Lower Merion School District in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is being sued by angry parents, and rightfully so, for using webcams and school-issued laptops to spy on over 1,800 students and their families in their own homes. The program was touted by school officials as a program that would, quote, ensure that all students have 24/7 access to school-based resources. The lawsuit was first filed by the parents of high school student Blake J. Robbins after he was confronted by the assistant principal for, quote, inappropriate behavior in his own home and shown a picture of himself engaging in the, quote, inappropriate behavior, taken by the webcam in his school-issued laptop. In a public statement on MSNBC on February 20th, 2 days after the story first broke, the Robbins family attorney, Mark S. Holtzman, commented that the so-called inappropriate behavior Blake Robbins was accused of was of him holding pill-shaped objects which the school says are drugs, but which the family says is Mike and Ike candy. Now, who are you going to trust? The parents of a kid who was spied on, or a school that is engaged in criminal activity? The lawsuit also charges that, quote, many of the images captured and intercepted may consist of images of minors and their parents or friends in compromising or embarrassing positions, including but not limited to, in various states of dress or undress. The school district has offered many lame excuses for its blatant violations of Fourth Amendment rights against unlawful search and seizure, and to be secure in one's personal effects on its own website, such as that the software was, quote, intended to track lost, stolen, and missing laptops. And what the laptops had webcams because they came with the computers. That's what they say. They say that they came with the computers. Bull crap. Now, folks, if they wanted to track lost or stolen laptops, all they had to do was put GPS devices in the computer, assuming they didn't have them already, which they probably do. Now, they could have tracked any lost or stolen computers without invading personal privacy. Now, many cell phones have these devices, and over 93% of cell phones can be tracked by GPS. But then they contradict themselves by admitting that the webcams have been used to invade personal privacy by saying this feature was limited to by taking a still image of the computer user and an image of the desktop in order to help locate the reported missing, lost, or stolen computer. Now, this story has angered many local parents and parents across America, but this story is much bigger than that. Now, big corporations like Google, Microsoft, AT&T, in collusion with the CIA, NSA, and other government agencies have been doing spying activities that are even more intrusive than this local school spying program for years. And yet many of these same parents who are so up in arms about their local school spying on their kids will either dismiss it as a conspiracy theory, say it's for their own good, or just don't care. To quote Alex Jones on his show the other day, quote, if your neighbor said, I want to put cameras in your house for your own good, you would say, get out of here, you pervert. It honestly baffles me why people are so angry at this school, yet when their government does it, they assume the position and say, thank you, sir, may I have another? There's a growing minority of Americans that if all goes well may become the majority, that is, waking up to the fact that America is becoming a police state. But the majority is still asleep at the switch. The position of, don't spy on my kid, but it's okay to put him through an airport naked body scanner, which violates child porn laws, makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Now, as I've said before, Google, Microsoft, AT&T, and other big corporations have been using technology through computers, microphones, webcams, and other applications to help the government spy on us for years. Now, even many cars now have devices in them which can be used to not only track where you are at all times, but can also be used to shut down your car. This is mainstream news, folks. TVs and digital cable boxes have hidden cameras and speakers in them which record everything you do. According to the Washington Post, dated February 4, 2010, quote, under an agreement that is still being finalized, the National Security Agency would help Google analyze a major corporate espionage attack that the firm said originated in China and targeted its computer networks, according to cybersecurity experts familiar with the matter. The objective is to better defend Google and its users from future attack. Google and the NSA declined to comment on the partnership, but sources with knowledge of the arrangement, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said the alliance is being designed to allow the two organizations to share critical information without violating Google's policies or laws that protect the privacy of Americans' online communications. The sources said that the deal does not mean the NSA will be viewing users, searches, or email accounts, or that Google will be viewing or sharing proprietary data. Yeah, right. Google publicly denies that it is snooping on citizens, but its CEO effectively told anyone with any concerns to go to hell with this statement, which I will play for you right now.
People are treating Google like their most trusted friend. Should they be?
Well, I think judgment matters.
Eric Schmidt is Google's CEO.
If you have something that you don't want anyone to know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. But if you really need that kind of privacy, the reality is that search engines, including Google, do retain this information for some time. And it's important, for example, that we are all subject in the United States to the Patriot Act. It is possible that that information could be made available to the authorities.
I mean, it's the same absurd arguments that the neocons kept spewing when everyone dared criticize the NSA's domestic spying program. But that is not the point. The point